Welcome to the I Love Coaching podcast, where we believe coaching solves everything.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the I Love Coaching podcast. You know me. My name is Adam Roach. I am your host. And today, you're going to want to sit down and you're going to want to take some notes because this guest has done many incredible things. So much so that actually Tony Robbins and Gary Vee have shared the stage with him, not the other way around. Rene Rodriguez has helped hundreds of thousands of people in his methodology called Amplify. We're going to learn more about that. Neuroscience is a space for him, teaching people how to speak, teaching them how to speak from stage, teaching them all about coaching methods. We're going to talk to Renee right now. And Renee, I didn't share this in our post or in our pre-interview here. I actually usually have from Instagram, I let someone ask a question that I get to then ask the guest here. So we'll do that at the end, okay?
Perfect. That's a good idea. I love that.
Yeah, Renee, welcome to the show. Welcome to the I Love Coaching podcast show.
Thanks for having me, Adam. I appreciate it. It's an honor being here and love what you're doing out there. So it's an honor.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. So let's go to how we got connected real quick because we can't leave him out. We don't want to hurt Mr. Chris Welton's feelings if we didn't leave him out. So Chris has been a coaching client of mine for nearly 3 years. He's spoken at our events, and I know that you have actually pulled him up on your stage before, probably even before he was ready. Tell us about your interaction with Chris real quick.
Chris is a gem of a human being, an amazing coach, and one of the most resilient, disciplined people I've ever met. And we have our AmpCon event. In fact, our next one's coming up August 16th. And, where we're doing our one last year, he sent me this message. He goes, someday I'm going to be on stage with you. Mm-hmm. And I just replied, I said, is that important to you? He said, it's one of my number one goals. And I said, noted. And so I told the team, I said, we're going to have a surprise guest and on stage at AmpCon. I'm just not going to tell anybody who it is. And we kind of announced it, the whole thing. And then, I did this whole long introduction for this next speaker and who it was and what it was, blah, blah, blah. And then I announced and the spotlight hit him in the audience. And he's like, and he came up stage, gave me a hug. I said, just do the story, man.
That's so good.
And this guy nailed it. He was sweating profusely. It was awesome. And it was so good. But yeah, he went up there and he just killed it. He's just an amazing dude.
Yeah. I can share a similar story. This was 2022 now. We'd been coaching just for a little bit. And he said, you know what? I know you're getting ready to do an event. And if any of your speakers back out, let me know. You can tap me and I'll be 100% ready. And sure enough, we had a speaker back out. So literally, I think it was the day before he jumped up on stage and he knocked it out of the park. And that was the start of his journey, man. So I'm glad that we are connected by Mr. Welton.
I love that. I love that. And I just love that he asks, not enough people ask.
Oh, agreed. You don't get what you don't ask for, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So let's dive into, I love your I've got a lot of questions here, your neuroscience background. Let's just stay there for a second. What inspired you to delve into that space of neuroscience?
It was it was a question. I was 17. My mom asked me, she said, look at this entire room in here and tell me what everyone has in common. And I couldn't figure it out. And she finally just said, they all have a brain. And if you understand how the brain works, life becomes easier. And so I looked at that and I thought it was fascinating. And so I kind of had this predisposition based on it because she had spent a lot of time understanding the brain research and what was going on, but the applied side. And then I was in psychology class in high school. I took an intro to psych class and the professor, and by the way, I hated school at the time. I only cared about basketball. And he brought this magician in. His name was Hondo. And that magician started doing magic tricks and giving little lessons with the magic tricks. And I'm like, psychology and magic. I loved magic. And I was learning all these tricks. And I was like, psychology, is this psychology? And I said, well, it's really around sensation and perception and visual illusion and all that stuff. So I was just hooked on it. And it just became something that, I'm so not interested in so many other subjects that this just consumed me. Yeah. And it consumed me, one, because people don't realize when you go to, school for psychology or even especially behavioral neuroscience, it's going to be 75% statistics. Sure. You're learning stats. But I hated math, but I love stats. And I even asked my mom, I said, why is that? She said, because stats is a search for truth. I was like, fair enough. I like that. So yeah, that's really what kickstarted it.
That's cool. And then from that moment, seeing all those brains in that room, where is it taking you now? Still in that love and that passion with this neuroscience space?
Oh, it's a never ending passion. Like
Right.
there's so they coined the 1990s the decade of the brain. 90s, okay, and that because more was discovered in that 10-year history than in all previous history combined. We're now in 2024. The rate of learning and discovery that we're having about the brain is incredible. And now here's what's changed though since I was first started. When you first started learning about the brain, it was around what was broken in the brain. Diseases, disorders, schizophrenia, ADD, ADHD, depression, anxiety, manic depressives, to you name it, suicide. All of that was really around what was broken. And my favorite psychologist is Dr. Martin Seligman. And he did a talk one time and they said, we're going to give you one word to answer this, kind of a fun little game we play. We're going to give you one question, you give us one word and see where we go. And they said, Dr. Seligman, tell us the current state of psychology today. And he said, good. And I said, all right, well, that didn't tell us much. All right, we'll change the game a little bit. Let's give him 2 words. Dr. Seligman, tell us about what's the current state of psychology today. And he said, not good. Like, hold on a second. All right, 3 words. Let's do it. Dr. Seligman, tell us about the state of psychology today. And he said, not good enough.
Mm.
And what was fascinating was because what he had noticed was that everything was around what was broken and nothing was around what was potential, the positive side of psychology. And so he created, that was sort of his genesis to start positive psychology. And what became my passion, which was what's the applied science? Like, I need to learn the research, I need to do that stuff, but okay, don't put it on a shelf and go get another one. Let's take it off the shelf and let's apply it. And so I started applying it in selling, persuasion, leadership, conflict resolution, communication, change management, writing, difficult communications, you name it. It's applicable to anything. And so
Right.
that became my passion.
That's so good. Yeah, we have what we call the real blueprint, which is helping the coaches dive in and build a coaching business. And real we call is our acronym for relevant, experiential, authentic leader. And the very first thing we start with, one of our first E's, is called embark, and embark is all mental. And it's so interesting how many incredible humans step in and want to become coaches, yet the first thing that pops up is imposter syndrome, right?
Yep.
Imposter syndrome. What are you seeing of people? We'll stay in the brain space here for a second. What are you seeing in people right now? Because again, as you said, I mean, our learning process now of the brain with this information world that we're in, there's so much information out there that it can almost be a little cumbersome at times to take it all in or keep it simple, right?
Yeah.
What are you seeing now in people as it relates to their learning skill sets, and are they able to learn at the rate that they need to have success? What are you seeing there?
I think, we've been saying that we were in the information age.
Mm-hmm.
And many years ago, I started saying we're in the implementation age now because we have all the information, but what the hell are you going to do with it?
Right.
Right? How do you implement it? Now I think we're in the age of attention where it's like attention is what matters most. The information's available, but what are we paying attention to? And everyone's vying for attention.
Right.
And that's where it becomes really scary because we carry our phones with us, and that's an immediate portal to us and our attention.
Right.
And I made a switch about 4 weeks ago to completely quit scrolling, the act of scrolling. And because scrolling because my challenge in being, having somebody who suffers from ADD, like the legitimate version of it is my attention is easily garnered.
Mm-hmm.
And you just got to do the basic things. And
Right.
something novel, a noise, something that's more enjoyable. And if it's not enjoyable, I won't do it. So scrolling is a reactive process. I'm basically saying, here's my attention, show me something that's cool. And I'm going to keep scrolling until you've captured my attention. And then something does, and then dopamine hits. And then you keep scrolling and you don't know when it's going to happen. And then dopamine hits again. That variable ratio reinforcement is the most addictive of all of the 4 types of reinforcement.
Right.
You got fixed ratio reinforcement, variable ratio reinforcement, fixed interval reinforcement, and variable interval. Interval is time, rate, ratio would be number. So if it's fixed, it's every 5th one. Fixed interval every 5 seconds. variable. It could be every 5th, every 7th, every 10th. And when it varies, the reinforcement, just like a slot machine, that's a variable ratio reinforcement, becomes addicting. So is scrolling.
Mm.
And so looking at that, and I said, I need to completely stop this and just kill that impulse. And that, I think, is where, we have to really own our learning. And that what it's made for me was the proactive approach to learning versus let's see what the world wants me to learn.
That's right. That's good. That's really, really good. Yeah, this was probably, gosh, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I installed a Chrome extension called, and this was for Facebook. I don't know if there's one for Instagram, but it was called Newsfeed Eradicator. And you could install this as an extension on Facebook, and it took away the newsfeed. So there was no scrolling for me for at least 2 to 3 years. And ironically, just the other day, I took it off because I was using it as a lead generation source, and I had to get back to scrolling a little bit. Though that's fascinating.
And that's the thing. It's not that you can't do it. I had to eradicate the behavior and that impulse in somewhat of an addiction, right? And I say it's addiction because you just keep doing it.
Right.
But it's like coffee too. Like you get a headache for a couple of days and it's over.
Right.
Good news, this is the same way.
Yeah. My son, who's 16, he just got back from a church camp. He's an athlete. He goes to a tennis academy here locally in Charleston. He and his sister, and they're nationally ranked tennis players. Though this church camp, he had to leave his phone at home. He couldn't even take his Apple Watch with him. And we picked him up, and I brought his phone with him. And he's like, "Dad, I got to tell you." I, of course, went down the question route with him. He's like, one of the biggest takeaways that I had was I didn't miss my phone. And I'm so glad I didn't have it with me. And he says, I honestly don't even want to pick it up right now. So that was pretty cool. He said, because my mind was filled with other things other than just what you said, what I am reactively learning in the world of social media.
Yeah. And it's not to demonize social media because there's a beautiful nature to it. I get my leads from it too. We got millions of followers, and thank God. And I appreciate them all. I just have to really, really know myself. And that's what I urge people to do, is just know yourself. And the best way is look at screen time. There's a screen time app that'll tell you, just scroll down and look at screen time. It'll tell you how much on a daily basis you use it. And then it'll tell you per app. And you're probably not going to like what you see because
very true.
It's a lot. Just to give you an idea, 90 minutes of scrolling a day, which is not a lot.
Yeah.
Not a lot. 90 minutes of scrolling is equivalent to 45 hours a month.
Wow.
That is one full-time job, of a full-time job.
2 full days.
Yeah.
2 full days.
Well, it's a full week.
Oh, yeah, a full week. Right.
Work.
Yeah.
It's a full week of work.
Mm-hmm.
And you go, okay, hold on, 45 hours. That's brutal. And so when you also realize that there's no excuses for not having time to work out, not having time for family, not having time for cleaning up or whatever it is. We have the time. We have just allowed others to monopolize it.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've chosen to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. Now let's take that. That's great education there. And I know that the listeners are writing down notes right now. So that's fantastic. Take that now, and you've taken that and turned it into a business. You've taken that and turned it into a real practical application of not only helping people, but empowering them to be the better version of themselves, whether that's, again, up on stage, whether that's in the coaching space, whether that's through reading your book or going through your methodology. Let's talk about that progression there. So your mom said, what all these people have, you said a brain, and then you started learning about that process. And now here we are years removed from that, and millions of followers, incredible events that you have. And yeah, tell us about that journey, that path.
It's interesting. It's just been this movement away from scrolling, and even not even having my phone at my office, has created more presence, right? Because I would fill every waking moment with just grabbing or doing something, because just as high functioning ADD people are constantly doing stuff,
right?
And so it created space to think, and space to think made room for creativity. And so I started really reflecting, and also then it gives you room to reflect. I reflected, how did I get here? Because how did I get to influence? And I remember in college, I got cut from my basketball team. The CEO told me that, I said, what do I have to be in your shoes to get, what do I have to do now to be in your shoes when I get older? And he said, learn to sell. If you learn how to sell, you'll always be employed. So I went and got a job selling cookware door to door. and became number 5 in the United States and Canada, Mexico after being the last guy to make a sale, and realized that sales was life. And I dove into sales for years, and then I worked for a change management consulting firm that used brain research to deal with change. And so I started realizing change management was a big piece, and selling and change were kind of similar, because in selling, I got to change behavior. In sales training, I got to change behavior. Change behaviors everywhere. Okay, did that. That led me into working with leadership teams and leadership and understanding the leaders that could do this and couldn't, and what that really meant, and the frustrating conversation around leadership that nobody really understood it, and realizing that there's only one measure of leadership then, which transitioned into influence. Influence is the only measure. If I don't have influence, I can't lead. And I don't need to be the boss to influence. So influence is available to everyone. I don't need a title. That consumed me again. And so I wrote the book and figured, okay, let me share the neuroscience behind this, because it is endless and awesome what's available to us. It's within reach. And that's where sort of I really focus my energy, is what's bite-sizable, what's snackable, what's implementable. You want to research, I'll give it to you. Here's what it is, but here's what it means to you. Here's the methodology. Here's the sequence. I just had a doctor of gastroenterology, number one, foremost expert in gastroenterology for the Native American community, but he also is one of the foremost experts in the world of all of it. And we were getting ready for a presentation. We just had a 1-hour conversation, and literally sent me a text, and he said, I'm getting a tattoo that says sequence and timing, because we helped him with a sequence presentation. And the group he was presenting had this software that he had developed. They want to invest. It's a big, huge organization. And it just came because he understood the sequence. And we gave it to him in an applicable format. And we had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of stories like that. And so now what's interesting is my next evolution is something I've been doing for the last 6 years, but I do things for a long time before I share them. Minimum 2 years is before I can actually go out and share it. And that's sort of it's a standard that I hold for myself, because I've also been, and I'm sure you've seen this, especially in the coaching world, how many people share things that they've just started or they're new with a practice. Somebody just gets involved in mindfulness, they need to tell everybody about mindfulness. And even though they've just barely scratched the surface of their personal understanding of it. Yeah. And even somebody just recently spiritual, and now they're going to tell the world, what the benefits are. It's like, why don't you it's okay, enjoy the benefits, but be that for a while first. And coaches should learn what their lane is that they've been in. And it doesn't mean you can't talk about things that are new, but maybe you take the approach of saying, hey, this is what I've discovered and what I'm discovering now. And I can share with you my real-time journey. Now that's a powerful coaching process. But for me to be an expert, 2 years, this has been 6 years now in a certain subject, of realizing there's one thing that kind of supersedes all of it, because we all need to sell. We need to be better leaders. We need to manage change, and we need to have influence. But what's interesting, if a brand does all of that before we even walk in the room, brand makes the sale. A brand builds trust and loyalty. Truly, a brand does that. And so learning that next evolution of saying, how do I create a brand that shows up to meetings before I do? Right? So like, this is our first time meeting, but you had a story, great things to say. Like, it was super flattering. And had I not had a brand and the executable assets for you to learn about it, you would have said, so Renee, heard a couple things about you. Can you tell me about yourself, what you do? It would have been a very different start to the podcast. Right. And so it does a couple of things. One, it edifies, creates ethos, which is the credibility and character. But it also jump starts conversations. We can start further down the path, because who you are, I've checked the box. I know who you are. Now let's get to work. Right. And so there's an efficiency to it as well. That's good. That's really, really good. Gosh, I mean, there's so many questions I want to ask, and I know we're limited on our time here. I want you to share with the listeners right here something that is most recently been on your heart that you need to share with people that you're teaching, you're coaching, something that either maybe is relatively new that we don't know about. Rene Rodriguez teaching, coaching, Amplify. What's new in the pipeline there that maybe we could have a first run at of the knowledge of Rene Rodriguez right here on the I Love Coaching podcast? Well, it's funny you ask that, because I mean, everything I just shared with you is brand spanking new. And I really haven't shared it. And so I'll go back to the genesis of it, because I held as a badge of honor for years my travel schedule. Last year spoke
Mhm.
239 days. Did
Wow.
that similar the year before. Now some of those had multiple events, so we were plus 300, and that's a lot of speaking. And the badge of honor for me was, one, as a speaker, 30 years in this game, you maintain relevancy for a long period of time. That was a cool win. Now being paid speaker, that's a win. But then being a paid speaker for that many times is a huge sort of badge. And but then I realized everybody was impressed by it, but no one was happy for me.
Mm.
Because there was always this underlying question of like, well, cool. So do you have family? I'm like, yeah. And I would tell them like, yeah, my wife books all the appointments. And I tell them, I said, I don't believe in balance. A balance is BS. I go, we believe in harmony and integration. So she runs the business. She's the CEO. She also books the times. So harmony to me is two people playing different tunes that come together to sound really cool. And she's agreed to play that tune. I've agreed to play this tune. As long as we're in tune, we're good. Well, about 6 weeks ago, I come home and 5 days on the road, no one's at the front door to greet me. Kids didn't run to the door. I get in and they're getting ready to leave. They go, okay. Oh, hey, we're heading out. I'm like, headed out? I just got here. It's been 5 days.
Right.
Yeah, we're headed out. I'm like, I'm sorry. Hello, I just got here. My name is Renee, your husband. Honey, life moves on even when you travel. We have baseball. That didn't sound real harmonious to me anymore.
Mm-mm.
And so I had to take a long, hard look in the mirror. And from one day to the next, I made a huge decision, which was I'm going to travel 80% less.
Wow, 80% less.
80. It wasn't 20%, 30, a little bit, no, 80. And we immediately cut off any event that wasn't paying full fee. I had to say no to some really beautiful stages.
Wow.
Beautiful, great events, dear friends. And called them and just told them the truth. I said, here's where I'm at. I've paid my dues, but my wife and my kids have paid their dues. They're the ones paying the price on this one.
Yeah.
And as much as I want to be at your event, can't. And every one of them was like, you know what? We totally get it. We're going to miss you, but man, family first. So the support was phenomenal.
Yeah.
We went through other events. I'm like, hey, I'm happy to come, do it virtually. We got this great studio here. We can do it that way. Good percentage. We're like, you know what? We'll take it. Some were like, hey man, we need you live. It's okay. Not a problem. Format doesn't fit. And, I still got events in Dubai that we're going to be doing and going to be keynoting at EXPCon. And, we still got some really, really cool things we're doing. But that created so much room and space again for me to create. And so we created a branding agency and stuff I've been doing, but we never put it under one umbrella. I never put it into one product offering. And now it's the first 15 people we showed this product to have all purchased it.
Wow.
Which has generated more revenue in 2.5 weeks than the last 4 months, if not more.
Right.
And we're going, okay, that's pretty cool. That's really cool. So I've had to reinvent myself many times. My most recent was COVID. We had 100 events booked. March 2020, we had to cancel within 1 week 100 events. No travel, no in-person gatherings. Shoot. Okay. Well, that means my entire business model doesn't even exist because everything was travel and in-person gatherings. So we turned to virtual. We built this crazy studio and I started doing the research, called Harvard, called directors, producers of movies. Because everyone's saying you can't connect on Zoom. I'm like, BS. We watch full-length movies with our family. We binge watch TV shows. And everybody's upset when it's over. And it's on this little box. And our periphery goes away.
That's right.
When we're truly engaged. What happens? And I talked to Harvard and they said, you're solving for one thing when it comes to Zoom, which is you're solving for disassociation. We disassociate from the people on Zoom because one, they got poor lighting, bad audio. So you really can barely see them and barely hear them. And you have all of this rich sort of 3D stuff around you in your desk and a computer and phone and social media and emails and way more entertaining. So we'll be on the Zoom to get through the meeting, but we won't get much from the meeting. And so we created a process to solve disassociation. So disassociation in essence is the dehumanization of something.
Okay.
So a serial killer dehumanizes them. Like, remember the Silence of the Lamb? It puts the lotion in the basket. Not like, hey, young girl that has a mom and a dad and emotions and feelings, can you put that in the, no, it
Yeah.
puts the lotion. That's disassociation. So it's dehumanizing. So how do we humanize Zoom? Well, one is eye contact.
Mm-hmm.
The other one would be good lighting, so we can actually see our eyes. Camera placement. So many people that have the cameras way too high and they're looking at, they're too low. We're looking up their nostrils. And a good microphone, teaching people like, here, good placement of the microphone, bad placement of the microphone.
Right.
So it's like, well, I have a mic, but you're not using it right. Well, get it in front of your mouth, and now, oh, look at how much nicer it sounds. And so teaching people what's the sweet spot and camera levels and lighting and location and things behind us. So you can see my location back there. We can do all sorts of things with that backdrop just to keep things interesting.
Right.
And so as we do that, we want to make sure that people are engaged, and a good audio pierces the screen, capturing people's attention as if you're in the room. And so we looked at all of that stuff, and I had to reinvent. And so then now I'm like, you know what? Let me just force another reinvention. Doesn't mean I still don't do the other stuff, but just differently.
That's powerful. All of that was, everyone should pause, go back, listen to that again, because the harmony, the first thing that I heard there, Renee, was the harmony. And listen how you then prioritize that harmony after the kids and the wife left you to go watch the baseball game. And then you learn to say no to something that maybe you wanted to say yes to, but you really wanted to say yes to something else. So you said no to it, and then look what came on the other side of that. Incredible, man. Incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah,
it's not easy because I'm in the middle of it right now.
I know the feeling all too well. And then again, I'll ask the individual's question though. We call it the beach chair moment inside the I Love Coaching company, and that was when my father passed in 2019. I had 3 real estate franchises that I owned. I was a coach with another company. I had a software company that I was running. Life was business wise good though. We call it the beach chair moment because I took a beach chair, sat at the beach here in Charleston, South Carolina, took a journal with me, took a water bottle, a speaker, and lotion for my bald head, and sat there for pretty much 4 days on and off. And I heard on the other side, doing some spiritual prayer there, was who you surround yourself with matters, and 100 million. And that who you surround yourself with was something that you just actually went through as well. And that was me literally selling all of my franchises. Because I realized I did not want to be in business with those people, but I had just inherited them as I went through this process of business ownership. And so I did. I walked in and I simply said, today's going to be an easy conversation. Either I'm buying you all out or you're buying me out. I'm not attached to the outcome. And so they all 3 were able to do that. And then 100 million. So now we have a vision statement inside the I Love Coaching community. And that's to empower coaches to change and serve 100 million people through what we call our real coaching method. And I love what you said there in the leadership space. We say that all the time. You can't be a leader without influence. And what is influence? Influence is getting someone to take action, right? Yeah. And so you can't have influence without leadership. So they both go hand in hand there. So this has been, Renee, so stinking good. Good conversation. Let me ask this question here real quick of one of our community members. This came from Greg Flanagan here, ironically, in Charleston, South Carolina. He said, how can I effectively integrate my personal experience and life lessons into my public speaking to create a deeper connection with my audience and amplify my message? Great question, Greg.
That's talk about a softball. This is beautiful. What a great question. It is the most powerful way to influence an audience is through your own personal experience. Your origin story, or what we call signature stories. Signature stories are stories as unique to you as your own signature. Yeah. Origin stories usually happen between the ages of 9 to 13, where our values are being formulated. There's a very sort of critical time period where people are either in our lives as role models, we call them lighthouses, or they're in our lives as foghorns, people that were the warning sign of not to be. Both of which create this origin story of lighthouses and foghorns. But then you develop signature stories throughout your years, all of which, like right now, I'm sharing a signature story. Like what I shared with me about coming home, that's a signature story. My kids weren't there. That's a signature story. Go back to listen to this. How many stories did I share? All of which were there. And I went back to some origin stories. My mother asking me a question. Going back to, moving and being away from family and early. All of those are some format of storytelling, but here's the secret. You have to end the story with this phrase. The reason I share that with you is this.
That's good.
Or what that means to you is this. That's what we call a tie down. That's the last step in the Amplify formula. Framing is the first, and that would be the storytelling.
That's good.
Delivering a message through the story is part 2, but then making it mean something. Answering that question of what this means to you is the tie down. And so I tell a story about, scrolling. And so what that means to you is, I'll give you an example. What that means to you is take a look at all the areas in your life that you're being reactive. How many things that you're being reactive to so that you're under the control of somebody else's attempts to influence you versus how many things can you switch to a proactive approach. For me, it was putting my phone elsewhere or giving into the hands of somebody else. They tell me when something's important, or when I need something, I go to it, right, versus constantly looking for stimulation and then reacting to it. And so that phrase, use your stories, and then ask yourself, what's the lesson here? Why am I sharing this story? And the difference between a really good storyteller and someone who loves to tell stories is one thing. The really good storyteller uses a story to deliver a message of value. The person who loves to tell stories uses our time just to tell us a story.
That's good. That's real good. Yeah. Mr. Flanagan, there you go. There's Renee's answer to your question, and a very powerful answer it was. Renee, this has been fantastic. I got to tell you, this has been some serious value. Some bombs have been dropped here. And now let's let the audience come find you. I know you're not hard to find, but where can they find you? How can they get involved? And how can they buy this new product that you have offered?
Instagram is Learn with Renee. RENE is my name, Learn with Renee. Website is meetrenee.com, MEET, not MEAT. In fact, I think we own that one now too, just as a joke. But yeah. Meetrenee.com. Reach out to us if you are looking to grow your brand. Let us know. We have our event AmpCon on August 16th in Dallas, Texas. And if you're listening to this and this comes out in time, we'll give you a 50% discount. Use the code AmpCon50, AMPCON 50. Beautiful. If you're part of this community, we'll let you use that code. And yeah, just reach out in any way. We're pretty easy. My wife will probably be the one that you'll connect with. If not, you'll catch me or one of the team members.
Yeah, incredible. Well, thank you for that discount code there. And thanks for all the value you just dropped here on the I Love Coaching Community podcast. This has been incredible. And I have everything to say thank you to Mr. Chris Walton for connecting us and actually going through the process to meet you so that you and I could have this conversation right here, Renee. So thank you. Appreciate you. And everyone go follow him, go check him out, and go to his events, and go buy those products. Actually, go buy his book also. Go read all that book. Yep. For sure.
Please.
Renee, thank you for being a guest. Take care.
Thank you, sir. Adam, thank you so much. You're doing great work here, and it was an honor.
My pleasure. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.